Hey everybody, welcome to the MMA podcast. I'm Karyn Bryant.
What's up, everyone? Alan Joban here.
So, Alan, it was a good weekend to be a fight fan. Obviously, we
Yeah.
had UFC Sydney or Adelaide rather. We had the Tough finale. We had the Tyson Fury fight. So lots to talk about. But you were also out celebrating your birthday. I saw some pictures of you looking a little like you're getting your drink on.
Got a little bit of my drink on. It wasn't my birthday. Well, I mean, maybe it's a combination, but a buddy of mine's birthday. We get to his house, and then it turns out they had a party bus rented.
Nice.
So I knew at that point it was going to be a long night. But it was a fun night, a good time. I ended up being that guy at the bar that's stuck by the TV watching fights all night. Like I wasn't with the crowd. I kind of abandoned my friends, but I had to get in at least the main event for the
Right.
Tough finale. So that's what I was doing that night.
Very cool, very cool. But otherwise, you had a good weekend and stuff?
Good weekend. I'm a bit exhausted. I think I need to get a little sleep tonight. Like you said, there was just so many events going on between me going out, trying to watch the fights every night. I had my own fighters fighting. We went 2-0 on Saturday night.
Yes.
I need to do a little catching up. But
Yeah,
a
I
good
hear you.
weekend.
I know.
How about
I
you?
feel like all I did was talk about fights since we had like way into on Thursday, then it's just Friday, then
Right.
Saturday. Yesterday I had a tennis match. My partner and I didn't win, unfortunately. We lost 6-4, 6-4, but whatever. It was still fun to play. So, that kind of wrapped up my weekend. But we just had a media lunch with Bryant Ortega this afternoon. Just came home from that.
Nice.
So that's up on the same channel as you can see this right now. And also we have one with Valentina Shevchenko that we did last week. So, to get you ready for 231, which is happening this weekend. And of course, I mean, we work with T-City at UFC now. Like, the dude
Yeah.
is so chill. He's such a good guy.
Well, I'm assuming that he's jumping on a flight tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
yeah,
he said
I
in the
saw-
morning, I think they said they were going. Or maybe it was even tonight. They were going, I think they were making like one more stop here in the LA area. And then, they'll be on their way soon. So
Right. Normally the fighters, we jump on a flight. If it's not like an overnight flight, but normally we leave on Tuesdays. I didn't know this being such a big fight for him if he was going to try to get there early. If he had to acclimate to maybe the weather or something.
Right.
But I saw Max is already there. It seems like he's already there playing in the snow. So TCD will get up there. I'm excited for this one, man. I mean, all of us, we'll get into this later, but Max is such a cool guy, cool champion, but Brian's probably closer to both of us as well. So, it's a tough one, but I'm definitely on Brian's side with this, but it's a fun fight.
yeah, it does kind of pull at the heartstrings there. And I even talked to him about it. I'm like, you guys are kind of very similar too. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, I can totally picture myself hanging out with Max. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just it. So, but yeah, okay. So, let's start with Adelaide. Kind of one of the themes for the show, it seemed it was old school versus new school. You know what I mean? We had Junior, the former champ, and Tuivasa, the guy on the rise. We had Shogun, the former champ, and Tyson Pedro. We had Mark Hunt and Justin Willis. And, in the case of Justin Willis, he got it done. Old school still had it, though, in the co-main and main. And there's a big part of me, Alan, that was like happy about that. I feel like the young guys still have so much time ahead of them that it was like I didn't really get too sad or bummed out for guys like Tyson and Ty. And then, but it was like that kind of old school quality win for Shogun where he had to dig deep, get nasty in there, come back from adversity. I thought that was great. And Junior just handled himself with such composure. I thought, all right, the old school still got it. I kind of liked it.
I'm not mad at those cool guys. As we said before, Shogun is a guy that was born on the exact same day as me. So he's an older guy in the game, and we're the same age. So I'm always rooting for those guys. And the thing that kind of jumped out to me, Karyn, was like, man, the hometown guys had a rough night, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like all the hometown guys, or a bulk of them, on the main card at least, weren't able to get the job done. But I don't think, like you said, a lot of those guys are younger, so it's not really going to affect the route of their careers taken because they have time to make up for it. And they lost a lot of these guys that lost. They lost to big names. They were fighting tough competition. But it seemed like the crowd was still very much involved, and they still got a lot out of it. And it's not like they're not going to be going back to this location anytime. I mean, it seems like the crowd loved it, and they will be able to go back here very easily, sell out a show hopefully again. Emotional walkouts, with the entrances with Mark Hunt and everyone. So it was a good show.
Yeah, and I feel like, if you are going to lose, losing to a former champion, always a great way to go. For Ty especially, too, he was undefeated beforehand, and getting in there with somebody like Junior, I feel like the value, and, it's that tired old adage of learning more from your loss than you do from your victory. But,
yeah,
I mean, I think that's pretty great for him to learn that he can hang with a former champion. It's not like he got cleaned up. The floor did not get wiped up with Tuivasa. He landed his own great shots, had Junior in trouble. So if anything, I think he should be incredibly encouraged by that performance. I mean, how many, most people who go in the cage with Junior lose. You know what I mean? The dude has more, you know what I mean? So it's not uncommon. There's no shame in that, no embarrassment or anything. And like I said, I thought there were a couple times where, he had Junior in some real trouble there.
Yeah, Junior's a guy that, like, when I see Junior Dos Santos, I think real heavyweight. He's got the stature, he's got the physique, and he's got power, and he's got that great boxing. And so when you get in a fight with Junior Dos Santos, you've seen him in some wars, and we've seen him take a lot of damage, or we've seen him give a lot of damage as well. And so he's the kind of guy that when you get in a fight with him, it's going to be a very tough fight. Yeah, we've seen him lose and have his slip-ups, but he's always been very consistent in my mind as far as like a good, solid guy to go against who will always be in that top echelon. And he looked good. He kind of caught Ty slipping a little bit, caught him with a couple punches. I think that one right hand might have landed behind the head, and then he was able to clean it up once Ty was off balance. And once you get Junior on top of you with the ground and pound, he was in a world of hurt. But, it was kind of an emotional loss for Ty, but you could see the crowd rally around him, and it ended up kind of becoming, and not so much of like a somber moment, but kind of more of an emotional moment for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And, like you said, with it didn't go well for Mark Hunt earlier either, and he's, kind of like literally like the father of those teams, and we were talking like, excuse me.
That's okay.
Excuse me. I don't have any water here.
You know what?
Talking about how backstage.
Are we gonna? Are you? I didn't mean to cut you off, Karyn. Are we able to edit that out? Are we gonna edit that out?
I don't think so.
Okay, never mind. I was gonna say because my dog is like chewing on a bone so loud right now. I was gonna go run over there and take it from him. But
well, it depends. If we keep it in, we keep it in. But if not,
if you guys can't hear it, we'll roll with it.
Exactly. But the whole idea of when you're backstage and and I know you've been in the similar situation where maybe it's not necessarily a teammate, but the guy you're sharing your locker room with. If one of the dudes loses, how does that affect the rest of the room?
Yeah.
And you could argue, that Mark's loss. I mean, I don't think it triggered Tyson Pedro, but like you could argue that by the time it got around to Ty, like what was he feeling backstage? Was he was he bummed? Was his emotions different? Because I also thought like you could be bummed, but on the other hand, you could have the pendulum swing to the point where you're like, all right, I'm going to go out there and do it for all of us now. Do you know what I mean? And he could have been even more emboldened. But I was kind of curious what that vibe must have been like backstage.
It's totally like that. I mean, it's tough, and it affects some. Just like all fighters have different personalities. Yeah. Some people absorb emotions. I'm somebody that I sometimes absorb the energy of the room around me. And so in fighting, you have to really block that out because if you're fighting with people that other teammates on the same card, like you're saying, and they're coming in, and not only have they lost and they're beat up, but they're going through those emotions. They go sit in the corner. They're probably crying to themselves. Everybody's trying to console them. And you're kind of sitting there trying to still be strong, still be motivated. It's something, it's a kind of a hurdle you have to go around. So that could have been part of it. For the most part, I feel like a lot of the hometown guys, it was just a bit too early for this caliber opponent for them. The Junior Dos Santoses, even the Shogun. Shoguns have had a bumpy road in the UFC. Granted, he's the former champion, but he's also had some very quick losses, some very quick knockouts, some up and down showings. So, but he's another guy that if you don't take him out, you're probably going to get into a war with him, a firefight, and he's deadly in those type of fights. Did you ever hear more? What happened to Shogun's opponent, his ankle or his knee?
Tyson, and it's funny because I think I heard different things. I heard one thing where they said that he had a knee injury, like that he blew his knee out in the second round. But it's funny because to me, I actually specifically asked Kenny and Mike about the ankle wraps because I said, hey guys, right when it started even, I said, do you think Tyson has an ankle injury because he's wearing 2 wraps? Maybe he's wrapped up both ankles so you don't know which one is injured. But I thought it was interesting that he was wearing the little ankle sleeve things, you know, and they were like, oh no, some guys just like that more if it gives them more grip on their kick and yada, yada, yada. But then come to find out that, yeah, afterwards there was something. So I don't know if that was something that was pre-existing or happened in there. But I actually remember, too, if you saw during the post-fight, or, you know, I don't know, sometimes the feed that I get in the studio, like, I don't know sometimes if that's a clean, if they're actually in a commercial and we're seeing things. But I saw Shogun and Tyson talking to each other. And Tyson said something, and he kind of pointed down, and he said something, and you could see Shogun was like, "Oh, that sucks," you know, like that he had said something like, "Yeah, my knee blew out or my ankle blew out," and you know, obviously they've been in a war, and Tyson was certainly not trying to say you only beat because of this. Do you know what I mean? They're both just 2 warriors, and but you could see that Shogun, you know, he explained something to Shogun, and Shogun's like, "Ah, that totally sucks," but you know, I mean. Listen, Shogun had a lot of people worried in the first round. You know, Tyson was going off, and like you said, you know, Shogun's had some fast finishes. Like he's actually 4-1 in his last 5 because he was on that 3-fight win streak. But the Anthony Smith fight was so quick, and he got blasted so quickly that was the lasting image. You know what I mean? Was Shogun, old Shogun who gets taken out quickly. He had with Ovince St. Preux before. That was still a while ago. But he actually was doing okay. He, you know, 3-1 out of the 4 leading up to this. And now he's 4-1 in his last 5. But, you know, I do know I spoke with his management. And, yeah, he trained a little harder. Let's just say he trained a little harder for this fight than maybe he did for the Anthony Smith fight. And maybe that loss reminded him he still has to train. You know what I mean? I do feel like you're around a long time, you start to take it on faith that you still got it. And so maybe the hiccup with Anthony is what actually revitalized him for this one.
I thought we were going to see little bits of the old Shogun. When he got blasted that first time, Shogun has this thing that every time he's hurt, he leans against the cage and he just kind of puts his hands up in a full guard position. Nothing wrong with it, but I've seen this before. And the first visual that comes to mind is John Jones. When he was very badly hurt against John Jones, he was hunched over against the cage, hands up, and John was just blasting him with knees and elbows and punches and liver shots and everything until he folded. Same thing in Anthony Smith's fight. Yeah. Once he got hurt, he went into that position. And then we saw that in this fight. We saw little elements of it when he got hurt, went into the cage, went into full-blown defensive mode, and I thought that was going to be the end of it. Yeah. Tyson kind of allowed him to stay alive, allowed him to breathe a little bit, and he was able to recover. And then I do believe it was his knee. I thought it was his ankle at first that Tyson injured. But then when they showed the replay, it looked like when Shogun had the double underhooks, had his back or whatever against the cage, something happened, and it put pressure on his right knee. You could see him kind of scream in anguish. And from there, I kept noticing, I was like, man, Shogun's taking him down very easily. Yeah. And at that point, I think it was a little bit too late. The knee was not stable anymore. Yeah. And so that did change the effect of the fight for sure. But no one's saying that, you know, this is the reason of it. Right. But obviously that knee had a lot to do with the outcome of the fight. But nonetheless, I think these were just tough veteran guys that knew, you know, maybe somebody not so experienced as Shogun wouldn't have been able to weather that storm. But Shogun's an experienced guy. The same thing with Dos Santos. Yeah. To me, the most surprising fight, and maybe it wasn't to you, maybe you're a little more familiar with him. Well, I know we spoke about this guy, Justin Willis, on UFC Now just recently. But man, for him to just kind of, I felt like he beat Hunt very easily. Not that it was an exciting fight, but I just felt like he wasn't intimidated by Mark Hunt at the least bit in that fight.
Yeah, it was interesting to me that he basically won a fight with a jab. Which just seems strange to me. And it's funny because leading up to the fight, I would have thought, okay, like most people, Justin Willis has got to take him down, and that's the best thing. He doesn't want to stand there and trade hands with him. And then when I started doing my fight prep stuff for the show, and I actually got refamiliarized myself with more Big Pretty's fights, I was like, oh wait, he actually has hands. Like this dude's got hands as well. And yeah, we saw that he definitely did. And like you said, I don't think he really felt that threatened by Mark. I mean, I guess I'm not sure Mark really ever landed that huge crushing Mark Hunt, knockout type of punch. But maybe Justin just felt like, I can handle his best shot. I was surprised by that. I thought it was going to be more competitive. It definitely seemed to me a lot of, Mark having to chase him down to try to land something. And we know he has shorter reach and all that. So, he's the one who has to kind of do all that work to try to get inside there. But I really didn't expect Justin Willis to be so successful with essentially just jabbing. I was surprised.
I feel like, without getting too deep into this fight, there was a lot of mental stuff going on inside of the cage, and I feel like Justin was picking up on that, and we were only picking up on it at the end of the fight. Yeah. Mark Hunt is a guy that normally people are intimidated by. Normally he has pretty good precision power. Mm-hmm. He's able to land it, and he seemed off the mark. Was it just me, or did Mark seemed like his timing was off, his rhythm was off? He was missing so much and eating so many jabs, and Justin seemed not fazed by the intimidation of fighting the great, powerful Mark Hunt at the least bit, that we started to see in the third round that Mark Hunt really mentally started checking out of this fight. He started just kind of wailing blows, shots that were not timed, not set up. He started missing badly, eating more and more. Mm-hmm. His footwork, I noticed it before the commentators, I think, touched on it during the fight, but I noticed it before that. Mark Hunt is a veteran fighter, an ex-K1 fighter, kickboxing champion, and he's normally very good at setting you up, cutting off the cage, and landing that big shot. By the second round, he started following, started chasing rather than cutting off the cage. And by the third round, it's like he was getting bull matadored. He was just getting thrown around, following the trails of Justin and missing. So, and I think a little bit of that showed in the post-fight interview. When he was interviewed, he kind of had something very short to say along the lines of, I'll see you guys on the next one or something like that. Mark's at the end of his contract, am I right?
Yeah, that was the end of Mark's contract with the UFC. And the thing about it is so that was the last time we would see him in the UFC, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the last time we'll see him fight. And I think kind of that's what he was alluding to.
I think so.
Last time here. I mean, if you think about it, though, it is kind of wild because he's 44. And Mark's obviously his style of fighting, he could probably keep going a little bit longer. But at the same time, it's like, Hunt, your name is legendary. I mean, I still believe that he could go and he could be a seminar guy. I mean, who doesn't want to show up just to learn how to overhand punch ceremony? I mean, seminar. Mark Hunt,
over and over.
You know what I mean? Who wouldn't go to that? Yeah. Or just to sit around. Mark should go on a tour of just a speaking tour, like a hangout and drink beers with me tour. Do you know what I mean? Bring the other guys. And speaking of which, I don't know if you saw my Shoey that I did on UFC tonight.
I saw the replay, Karyn. I saw a little bit of it. So remind me on the details. So you did a shoey in your own shoe, I assume.
Well, it wasn't my own shoe. It was a sneaker. So here's the thing. On UFC Tonight last week, we had a poll question whether or not fans wanted to see DC do a shoey. Of course, overwhelmingly, the answer came in yes, they wanted to see him do a shoey. Of course. So at the end of the show, I poured one for DC. He did it, spilled a decent amount. Then he was trying to get Kenny to do one. Kenny was having none of it. Then DC started pouring me one. I was like, wait, no, okay, I guess we're doing this. And I didn't
Wait, with DC's shoe?
Well, it was not DC's shoe. No, it was a shoe.
Okay.
It wasn't DC's shoe, but it was a big ass sneaker that held a lot of beer. But I didn't spill any because I had a pretty dress on, so I didn't want to spill any. So I did one, and it's funny because actually Ty gave me some credit on I think I put it on Instagram, and he was like I did it like a champ. I didn't spill any. So I got my shoey props.
Hey, good for you. Good for you. So I'm still curious about this shoe, though, Karyn.
Anyway,
I feel like you're not disclosing everything. I feel like you're not disclosing all the information. Was this shoe worn by anyone beforehand?
You're breaking up, Alan. I can't.
As long as it wasn't like a Michael Bisping type shoe, it's okay.
It may or may not have been a brand new sneaker. I don't.
Okay.
I don't have to comment any further on that.
You got street credit. You're good.
But here's the thing: Modelo is actually quite refreshing, and I'm not being paid to say that here. I was like, that's a refreshing beer, actually.
Yeah. Are we sponsored by them now? That's great.
It's the official beer of UFC. If they want to be the official beer of MMA Heat, they can bring it on because
we're cool with it. Yeah.
I'm sure you would enjoy it too. Yeah. No, that's the whole. What?
I got a question for you. So you may have. I didn't catch the post-fight show and everything going on this weekend, but I did catch the comments that Ty had after the fight that didn't seem to be very pleased with Justin. Do you know what was going on behind the scenes with that?
Yeah, so at the weigh-in, when Mark and Justin weighed in, they got in each other's faces, right? So they kind of got loud with each other. Justin was saying something. Mark Hunt's like, blah, 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 blah. It actually kind of carried on again a little more behind the curtain as well at the official morning weigh-in, right? So it kind of went on behind them, and, you know, people were yelling and saying some things. And so I think it was a carryover, the fact that Justin beat Mark. I think now, yes, Ty is taking it upon himself to put Big Pretty in his place for Mark. And to be honest with you, I mean, like, I know Ty lost, but I mean, if that fight already has some heat on it, and have you know what I mean? Well, like, why not make that fight? Like, I don't.
I mean, there's only 20 guys in the heavyweight division anyway. That you know what I mean? So. Yeah. Let's see it, and I think that would be an entertaining fight. You know, Ty's a power guy as is Hunt, but Hunt has been, I don't want to say reduced, but he's now a guy that likes to walk up, and when you get in, you know, he's not really trying to explode, and Ty's the opposite of that. He's still got that explosive, covered lots of distance. We saw in this fight he was trying to cover tremendous distance, and he was falling into cage in the beginning of it. So he's a guy that might be able to make a Justin fight a little more entertaining that Mark wasn't able to do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because we were talking about it after the show too, that it does seem that there is a ground game hole in that camp. They're obviously all tougher than nails, you know what I mean? But it does seem to see, if you look at how Tyson was defeated on the ground, and Mark doesn't really have a ground game. Maybe it's the type of thing where they love the striking. You know, we were having this conversation, and I'd love to hear your opinion of, like, you know, I joked that nobody goes, awesome, it's wrestling practice day, right? Like, most people don't like that part, right? You hate that. I mean, you always talk about how Kenny Johnson, like, killed you every day. And so we were like, you know, sometimes some people like to only train what they like the most, you know what I mean? And maybe those guys focus so much more on stand-up that collectively, is that going to be a hole in all of their games, you know, from that camp? I don't really know if that's the case or not. Obviously, if Tyson's knee is jacked up, that's going to affect what he can do regardless of where the fight is going. I did, though, think that Shogun taking Tyson down was going to be a smart play, just because he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. But yeah, so maybe it's the case where they just don't work on the stuff they should, and they need to just do more jiu-jitsu. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of a prideful thing coming from that area. Like you said, these guys are we think of them as tough. They're very tough guys. They seem to excel more in the striking department. So I think you kind of gravitate to what you naturally are good at. And so that may be a case of it. And then also it's tough because these guys aren't small, you know, and the bigger you get, the least amount of sparring partners you find. And especially, it's one thing to maybe be able to hold mitts for a heavyweight, but when you have a 265-pound man and you say, can somebody clinch up with him and let him, you know, then everything hurts. So, you know, having a lack of partners and maybe a lack of high-level wrestlers as well, you know, could be a part of it. So it is tougher in the heavyweight division to get the proper teammates and bodies for everything you need. But I think, like you said, I think you nailed it. I think these guys are just great strikers and naturally good strikers, and they're gravitating towards what they're naturally good at.
For sure. Well, and I asked, okay, so Shogun has 2 more fights on his contract. Okay. And he mentioned that Curitiba fight, because there is one in May. So that would be my guess, that we would see him on that fight card, you know, and not beforehand, obviously, because it did take some damage in there. So, yeah, 2 fights left on his contract. So maybe he would fight in Curitiba and just finish there. Who knows, really? And I'm not sure what kind of opponent they'll get him. You know, Junior had mentioned a rematch with Alistair. I don't know how you feel about that. You know, Junior has said he wants to make another run at the title, and he's 36, I think he is.
Okay.
And so, you know, I mean, we know that that's like the average. Oh, actually, no, Junior's only 34. So, yeah, he has the time. I feel like a little while ago, like a year or 2 ago, people were starting to question Junior's chin. But it seems like the time he took off or something, it seems like it's back or it's holding up. I think I feel like there was a minute where he was chinnier than he is now.
Yeah. You know, maybe, like you said, it could be I was laughing, but it is true. Like once your chin's gone, it's gone. But there are times where people are getting their chin tested during camp, and they're getting these little minor concussions, and then they're going into the fight. So they are chinnier than normal. But once you have time and you haven't had any type of concussion over 6 months or so, then you're back to at least as strong as you will be when it comes to your chin. So maybe that was the case. Maybe he wasn't getting hit as hard or cracked as much in training. But the thing with Junior as well is he's predominantly a boxer, and boxers will hit you the most, but they also get hit the most as well because they're always in punching range. And so Junior he has very long arms and he's very good at boxing, but he's always in punching range as well. So he takes a good bit of damage as well.
So I'm curious on some of the other fights. Like I actually, the Jake Matthews fight was interesting with Rocco Martin. Obviously the Kai Kara-France one with Elias Garcia, they got fight of the night. I was just curious if there was anything else that kind of stood out to you. Sodiq Yuseff. So the performance bonuses went to Shogun and Sodiq Yuseff. And the fight of the night went to Kara-France and Garcia. And Sodiq, people have been talking about him. I thought that was really, really, really sad to hear that his brother had passed away only a week before his fight.
Oh, that guy got the bonus.
Yeah, he got a bonus.
Okay.
He got a bonus.
Good. You know what? He opened up his post-fight speech by saying, I think that deserves a bonus. And I was kind of thinking, like it was impressive, but it wasn't like the finish wasn't like, it got
stopped kind of early, if you ask me.
It's but then when he went into what he was going through emotionally and mentally before the fight, I was like, you know what, give this man, because he could have easily said, you know what, I can't fight. I have my brother just passed away, or he could have bailed on the fight. He could have showed up and we've seen a lesser individual. He put it in the back of his head. He went out there and performed. He had a great fight. It just wasn't the highlight reel finish because of the way that it was stopped. So I'm fine with him getting the bonus. I'm actually very happy for him.
Nice. Yeah. So it was cool. All in all, I thought the Adelaide card was fun. I'm just trying to think if there was anybody else I'm forgetting. Hey, didn't your boy Christos won? Giagos, right?
Christos got the win. I was very happy. I was driving to the fights, trying to watch that on my phone and drive, and it was a rough one. But he did very good. And Christos is a guy that I always say does not get tired, and he was exhausted in that fight. So I think part of the travel, these guys had like 13 hours of travel time to get there. And then I don't know exactly what it was, but I know when I fought in Australia, I was fighting at like 9 in the morning. So I assume they were fighting sometime in the early day as well. It takes a toll, it really, if you don't go early enough to acclimate between the travel time and the fighting in different hours, it could just change your body's patterns. And like I said, a guy named Christos, I never see him tired. And he was exhausted at the end of that fight. So I know the travel had a bit to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was a good, fun fight. And actually, Adelaide was the last time I'd be in the studio for Fox for a fight night, because I have this weekend off, and then I'm going to Milwaukee for those fights. And then at the end of the year, we'll be in the studio. We'll be on the road in Vegas. So it was the last time we were doing a fight night in the studio. I have one more UFC tonight in the studio at Fox, but it was kind of a bummer that we were on a different stage. We were on the little stage up on the 5th floor, but yeah, no, I was there. And we're you're trying not to like take it all in. You're like, man, this sucks, because we've had so much fun doing fight nights and all that stuff there at Fox, but. Time rolls on, but it was fun. But of course, the night before we were there as well, we had a twofer, and we had the tough finale. And I know, welterweight is your division. I'm curious what your take on Kamaru Usman is, because that was just such an incredibly dominant performance.
Dominant. You said it. You said the words out of my mouth. It was just dominant. He was it's interesting because when we think about I'm blanking on his opponent all of a sudden.
Rafael dos Anjos.
Rafael, thank you. When we think about Rafael, he's the guy that used to do this to everyone else. You remember when he was just smothering people, pushing them against the cage, taking them down, relentless, and he seemed to never gas, never get tired. And now we're seeing that happen to him. He had a great run at welterweight, and I'm a big fan. Even though I've called him out
he's
before.
Awesome.
He is. He's a good guy. I've called him out to fight him just because I wanted. It was an enticing fight to me, but I've never had anything against him. I hear he's a great family man.
He
father,
really is a nice guy. Yeah.
All that stuff. And I can appreciate and respect him just from fighting, because he was getting dominated, but there was no quit in him. He was getting taken down, beat up on the feet, beat up on the ground. But you see him, like he gets on the ground, he shrimps out. He gets taken down again. He's looking for a Kamaru. He gets up. He's throwing punches, throwing leg kick. He's always just thinking, what's the next step? What's the next step? You never see that exhale of like, this sucks, so I don't want to be here. This is bullshit. Why we? He never gave in. He went 5 rounds and he took the best of them, and he lost. On the other side, Usman was just so dominant. I mean, he took Colby Covington's blueprint and he made it his own. He did the same thing. I think he would have done it anyway without Colby Covington kind of laying down a blueprint. But he did more so less effortlessly, if I said that correctly. He was able to do what Colby Covington did, but he didn't have to try as hard. You would see Colby Covington getting taken down now and then.
Right.
Usman wasn't getting taken down. It's not happening. And he landed a tremendous amount of strikes, and he would take him down with ease. And I think Dana White said it. He said, look, this could have leapfrogged Colby Covington in a possible title matchup in the future.
Yeah, that's what he was telling us after the fight. Dana seemed really fired up on the idea of Kamaru versus Tyron, much more so than Colby versus Tyron. And I agree with you. The fight with Rafael and Colby, obviously Colby's wrestling was the story in that fight. But in that fight also, Rafael's ear, like he literally thought it was going to come off. I remember talking to him after the fact, and he was like, yeah, it sucks. He goes, it sucks. He's like, I'm fine with losing a fight. Like it is, it is what it is. He said, but
not an ear.
What was more frustrating, he's like, I thought I was going to lose my ear. And he's like, and so I'm not really going to like stop the fight necessarily, but he's like, I was more worried about my ear than the wrestling. That's whatever. And so then going into this fight, he had that surgery, and he, supposedly the ear was fixed. I still thought it looked kind of compromised with Kamaru. Even then, I was like, oh, God, is that always going to be a liability now? A vulnerability, too, with the ear. But I agree with you, everything you said about Rafael, like, never having any quit in him, never giving up. And that's the whole thing. I felt like Kamaru did what people expected. And so, yes, you praise his performance because it's exactly what we expected, and it is a very high-caliber win. But it's almost like Rafael got more praise after that fight. Even in defeat, it was almost like that even proved what a heart of a fighter that he had, even more so. Now he's got back-to-back losses to 2 wrestlers, but I feel like the thing that kind of sucks with Rafael is he maybe is just not quite big enough for 170-pound wrestlers, right? But obviously he can hang with, he beat Robbie Lawler, Tarek Safadine, and Neil Magny. So it's not like he can't hang with people who can strike and who can do the whole complement of what an MMA fighter needs to do. It just seems, particularly with a big-ass, strong 170 lifetime wrestler, that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's a little bit undersized when he gets to the wrestling department.
Yeah.
I got to say, even though, as I said, I'm a fan of Rafael, even if we fight in the future, I'm going to have a lot of respect for him. Yeah. But when he did fight Lawler, I was hearing that Lawler had a torn ACL during that, and so that's kind of why he was able to manhandle him. So I would have liked to see how that fight would have played out. I know I'm backing up too far, but how that fight would have played out had Lawler not been injured. But I'm glad I didn't hear all that Rafael was kind of getting praise, because you look at a lot of the guys that Kamaru was able to take out within 1 or 2 rounds, and to go 5 rounds, 25 minutes with Rafael, battering him, but there was no signs of giving up. Good. I'm glad that he's getting that respect. And at the end of it, I think, I'm not sure who Rafael's manager is, who his management is, but I didn't think that was a smart matchup. I know he's got the heart of a fighter, but when you're coming off of a loss and you're trying to keep momentum, you want a smart matchup. But to put him against the better fighter, wrestler, bigger, stronger guy, coming off of a loss, coming off of here's the blueprint on how to beat my guy, and now let me give you a guy that does the same thing but better. I didn't think that was a smart move. I know once you get in that top 5, top 7, you're always fighting the best of the best, but they could have given him somebody a little more of a striker, let him get some momentum back before he took on a fight like that. So I didn't think that was a smart move, but it just showed again what kind of heart he has.
Well, yeah, and I agree. And yes, you don't have to say yes to every fight that's offered, and we don't know how this came together. But also with great risk comes great reward, right? Because if he had beaten Kamaru, if he, then and Kamaru's the guy that nobody wants to accept a fight with, and that's the whole thing is. And maybe he thought going into it, okay, Colby did this to me, but I had this other issue. This isn't going to happen again. You know what I mean? And maybe he's the type that, yeah, he got beat by one guy and wants to prove to himself. You know what I mean? I'm not exactly sure what went into the decision making. I agree with you on paper. It looks like, no, dude, you should have said pass. And waited for a striker. But, you know, he also just had his third baby, his third son. He and his wife just had their third son. You know, it was a main event opportunity. You know what I mean? There's a lot that goes into it that, you know, maybe outside of it, he just thought, I need to do this as the dad of the family or something right now, maybe even more so than the, you know, what's for his career. But I don't think, you know, it's such a specific kind of fighter he lost to that, yeah, the losses go on the record, but I don't think it takes away from his cachet as a respected and admired fighter.
I agree. You know, 2 losses in a row, it might drop him 1 or 2 spots in the rankings. Sure. But at the end of the day, when you're within that top 10, you're always a fight away from the title, and they always know that he's a guy that could step up. So I agree. You know, with great risk comes great reward. It just, to me, I would have taken that fight a fight or 2 later, get a little momentum going and stuff like that. But you said it. Look, main event. Look, when you take a main event, you get paid a little bit extra more money, and there's also that chance that if he would have won, could have been a bigger fight down the line. So I see him taking it. I just most managers would have definitely said no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the interesting thing is too, though, that if Kamaru kind of jumps over Colby, because I think I know how you feel this. Like, if Kamaru and Colby fought, I say Kamaru wins. You know what I mean? So
all day.
Yeah, so, you know, Dana had kind of said something like, well, and Colby didn't, you know, defend his title, which is funny because it was just that interim title anyway. But it sounded like in the interview with us, with Dana, the fact that Colby didn't show up, that, you know, when they wanted him to fight Tyron and he had the, nose injury or whatever, that made it sound like he wasn't necessarily guaranteed his place. You know what I mean? It did still seem like, yes, the interim champ should be the next one to face him, but it sounds like, it's not a guarantee. And Dana sounded very excited about the idea of Kamaru versus Tyron. In that case, I still say Tyron wins. I don't think anybody's beating him, to be honest, but I think Tyron versus Kamaru is a very competitive fight, more so than Tyron versus Colby.
Yeah, well, you know, it makes me think that Colby had better get his Twitter fingers out and start talking some trash again and building that hype up, because, you know, that's what really keeps him relevant. I give him respect. He's a tough fighter. But, you know, it's everything that he does outside of the cage that helps kind of set up these opportunities with it as well. So if he doesn't want to get pushed aside, he needs to create some type of buzz about this fight so he can stay in the number 1 slot. And I got to say, I'm going to disagree with you on the possible matchup, Karyn, of Usman and the champ.
You think Kamaru beats Tyron?
I think that it's a close fight, but I could see it happening. Because when I watch, the real thing is, when I watch Usman, so I think Tyron is the more technical striker, a better striker. But I think Kamaru I know he has longer arms. He's very long arms, and he's able to just kind of throw punches, and they don't have beautiful technique, but they land a lot more. And as they showed, I was just on some stat with him where he has the welterweight punch differential. He was second only under GSP. He might have surpassed GSP after this fight. So I think he outlands Tyron Woodley. I think Tyron obviously has a little bit more of a power, but I think he outlands Tyron. And in the grappling department, I want to say that Kamaru is a better grappler than Tyron, because Tyron is the more power grappler, but we don't really see him use it that much anymore. And Kamaru Usman is a longer, taller guy with longer arms. I feel like he could use those arms to keep Tyron at bay. I think Tyron's opportunity to beat him would be to set up that overhand and try to get a power knockout, but Usman doesn't get hit that much. So it's an intriguing fight. I would love to see that more so than Colby fight either of those guys. And it would be a tough one to pick, but I would have to lean towards Usman after seeing his last couple performances.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. If and when that fight comes to fruition, we got a bet going. I don't know how to figure out what the stakes are. I agree with your assessment of Kamaru's skill set, but I just think T-Wood's going to be faster, more explosive. The striking department alone, to me, Tyron's hands, I think, are just going to be better. But, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if we'll see it happen if we do or not.
I could see that fight, as dangerous as both men are, going a decision. I could see it going a decision, and then at a decision because, like I said, because of the punch differential and the length and the wrestling that Usman has, him being able to win more rounds than Woodley. But good fight. Two of the best guys in the world for sure.
We should see. Well, there also were new Ultimate Fighter winners crowned. Macy Chiasson won for the featherweights. Yeah, and well, she's from Nolans. I mean, you had to be rooting for her, I would imagine, in that fight.
I didn't get to see it, unfortunately. I was at the bar. I only saw that one fight, but it's good to hear that.
Yeah, no, she seems like a real cool girl. She and Panny, you could tell, became such close friends on the show. They were very emotional with each other, even just like when the fight was announced and during their weigh-ins and stare-downs, everything. And even after the fight, they're in there like hugging for so long. You can tell they were really, really close and bonded over the course of that show. But yeah, for Macy, nice win for her. She's still really not that established in her career. I feel like that was only like her third or fourth professional fight or something, which is kind of wild. But she, I think, has a lot going for her. She has the natural size of a 45er and stuff, so I'm excited to see what becomes of her in the UFC. But also then there was Juan Espino, the big heavyweight, who... we kind of knew this would happen. Justin Frazier was like kind of the feel-good story of the show, you know what I mean? Last guy picked and had to like cut a lot of weight on the show, like didn't show up in shape, you know what I mean? Really, really struggled on the show. And, for him to make it as far as he did, I think was really a good thing. So even though he wasn't victorious, I feel like he kind of put his name out there. He's a very likable guy. And in fact, like established himself more than Juan in a way, just on the course of the show. Had, that language barrier is hard, when guys like Espino don't speak English. It gives guys, the English speakers much more time to get adjusted and sort of have a chance to build a fan base. So I know not everybody watched the season and not everybody watched all the shows, but I think the two right people won. And because Panny could actually fight at 35, she's not as big as some of the 45ers. So I think she, even if she gets signed to the UFC, might actually fight as a bantamweight. But for sure, Macy is a 45er. So I'm happy that there's new blood coming in there.
Sometimes these last picks, they make it to the end. A little trivia for you, Miss Karyn Bryant. Yeah. Do you remember
Brandon Moreno?
The one that look at you jumping the gun. No, a former heavyweight who was also the last pick, who also fought in the finale and won the finale, won the Ultimate Fighter, but he was the last pick at the heavyweight division.
Oh, well.
He then changed weight classes. Rashad Evans, Rashad Evans. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Rashad was the last pick on the show. They thought he wasn't athletic. He wasn't good enough. He was a small guy.
Yeah.
And he makes it to the finals, fought David and Goliath, knocked his ass out, and then became the former light heavyweight champion of the world. Yeah, Rashad had a really cool story.
That's right. Yeah, it's funny because that was one thing that's fun when they, anytime there's an Ultimate Fighter thing, and they go back and they show all the old footage, and sitting there working with Kenny and Mike. Kenny was a finalist on the first season there, and he fought at 185 pounds. So like Kenny was like super chunk on the show there, and then of course Michael won it at 205 pounds, I think, actually, and then went down and fought at middleweight. But just to see their little baby faces and stuff was pretty funny. I think I asked you before, did you ever consider going on Tough, or was that ever did that ever come up?
Yeah, I was almost a Tough alum, so I went to Vegas and I auditioned. I actually blew my knee out while auditioning. I was doing some jiu-jitsu. My knee popped. The medics came on the mat. I finished up, and I got picked. And so it was going to be that season where I think Tony Ferguson won, where it was the Ultimate Fighter live, and it was 12 weeks long. And and so they called me up.
That was Mike Chiesa won the live one.
Oh, was it that one?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was that one. Nonetheless, it was the one that decided to go 12 weeks. Right. And it was at the same time that my son was born and my grandfather was on his deathbed. So nonetheless, I turned it down, and it was something that was kind of tough for me because I grew up watching The Ultimate Fighter, or as a fight fan, I grew up watching The Ultimate Fighter. But I was like, to leave my family for 12 weeks when I can make this dream happen elsewhere. Right. I decided to go the other route. It worked itself out, so I was glad that it happened. But yeah, almost did The Ultimate Fighter, But when they said 12 weeks, no family, no cell phone, I was like, the cell phone.
I know.
The family's one thing, but no cell phone?
But no cell phone? Yeah, exactly. No, I get it. That show is, for me, I think it's a show for single people, you know what I mean? Without families or...
Yeah, 21 years old, single, no kids. Yeah.
Or people who really don't care for the people they're around, you know what I mean? Looking for a way out or something. But...
An outlet or something, exactly. Free food, a nice place to live, then it's all for you.
So question to you, did you, because at one point it was funny, we had all the TVs on network on Saturday night, and at one point there were the two Tysons were in fighting at the same time. We had one TV with Tyson Pedro fighting Shogun. The other one, of course, we had the Wilder Fury fight on. I thought Fury won. Going into this fight, I didn't really have a dog in the fight. You know what I mean? I wasn't really picking one guy for the other. But I thought that Tyson Fury won that fight. I don't know what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, I didn't have a dog in the fight. I picked Wilder because why wouldn't you? I mean, he murders everybody.
For sure.
And I thought Fury just wasn't ready for that type of ferocity that Wilder would bring. And I was at the fights cornering people. I'm watching it on my phone the whole time. So I definitely think Fury won the fight. Yes, Wilder landed the better punches. I think he scored 2 knockdowns. Yeah. The second one was like an Undertaker moment where I thought he killed him and then he resurrected and came back to life. It actually turned out to be an amazing kind of story because we found out later on that he was battling some demons. Right. We saw a picture there where he looked huge. He was grossly, very much overweight. Yep. And battling some demons with depression. And, he came back and had this tremendous fight. And going into the fight, the storyline the day before at the weigh-ins was kind of the Wilder thing with, Wilder brought up all the stuff about 400 years of fighting because Fury brought up my people have been fighting for 200 years. And so that was kind of the story. And then somehow Fury, with his just coming back to life and outboxing him, he kind of stole the show at the end. Right. But at the end of the day, I like that both men showed respect for one another. It was an entertaining fight. But yeah, I definitely feel like Fury kind of got robbed. Even though he got his head knocked off, he got up. And if you're playing it by the scorecards, he definitely outscored Wilder in that fight. They did Wilder a favor. But hey, look, Wilder did what he always does. He may not be the most technical, but we knew that he had to do something. And to be in the 12th round of a fight, that you have to knock the guy out to do it. And he basically knocked the guy out. Right. He just got up. Like, if that was an MMA fight, that fight was over. Yeah. Okay, the ref had stopped it, but the guy got up on the count. It was a crazy fight. It was a crazy fight to watch. Yeah,
I too, I guess as it was going along, I found myself cheering for Wilder more than I was for Fury, but I really didn't care who won. But at the end of the day, after watching the whole thing, I cared because I thought it was a BS decision. You can see it happen, and we know in boxing that kind of thing does happen. I guess the thing that was frustrating for me is there were times when, even after that knockdown, where Wilder should have gone for it, and I was like, why doesn't he have that sense of urgency? You know what I mean? We're all sitting there screaming, like, go for it, kill him, and I felt like that was kind of the story for me, that there were times where I was like, I just didn't see the urgency out of him, and really going to look and score some points. You can't always just wait for a knockout, you know what I mean? Just keep peppering him, kind of go in there. But I thought it was risky, like right away, how quickly Fury was clowning him and, everything. And it was a very entertaining fight. Everything from the walkouts, all of it, I loved. The one thing I also found shocking, and maybe you already knew this, Alan, did you know that Tyson Fury is only 30 years old?
Really?
Yeah, that's a no, right? Exactly. No. Wait. What? I literally looked it up. I was like, wait, I'm sorry. I was like,
30?
That's a
He's
hard
a baby.
30, is all I'm saying.
That's crazy. A hard 30.
That's a hard 30.
That's hilarious. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. You definitely wouldn't tell by looking at him. But bigger people, look older. And he's a big man. I'm trying to find a way around this.
Bigger people look older.
You know what's crazy too is I didn't get to see the tail of the tape because I said I was watching it on my phone while I was cornering my other. But I would love to see his arm reach because
it's 85, I think, and Wilder's was 83.
Wow, because the photo at the end where they both have their arms raised, and Tyson, his arms seem to be hitting the lights. I mean, he looks like he could hit you from across the ring, and it's just crazy to think how big those men are.
For sure.
But
Wait, can you drop the tail of the tape for Wilder Fury? We just don't know their arm reach.
Yeah, please. I'm so curious to know his reach, because the picture that I saw this morning, his arms, though they dwarfed the referee, and his arms seemed to be 6 inches longer than Wilder's, and I thought Wilder had a crazy reach already.
3-inch reach advantage, I think.
Wow.
Hold on, Wade's calling it up.
He uses it well.
I remember seeing the tail of the tape, but yeah, I feel like it was like 83 and 86 or 85 and 82 or something like that. But I just couldn't believe. I was like, I just thought Tyson Fury was older, and then when he's got
to be my age. He's got to be 37 or something.
Right.
Yeah, no, 39, 29, 30 years old, 29. Yeah, but he uses, for a guy with long reach, he uses it to his advantage with that snapping jab and the footwork. He uses it very well.
Yeah, it is a 2-inch reach advantage. So it's 85 and 83? Yeah, 85-inch for Fury and 83 for Wilder.
So John Jones has a longer reach than both of those men.
Exactly. John Jones is right there with him, so, yeah.
Man, crazy.
Pretty crazy. All right, so Alan, this week we don't have a UFC tonight. Like I said, we have one left on the 12th. Sniffle. And I have this week enough. I've got to, actually got to figure out a plan for watching 231 because those fights are going to be really good. But as a reminder, we have a media lunch Q&A. There's a bug. When we say media lunch, I always think that it's a Q&A because we don't just sit down, and just chow down with her. We actually ask her a bunch of questions, and she's not eating at the time. But really good Q&A with Valentina Shevchenko, who is just a cool chick. Like, the more time I spend with her, the more, I've interviewed her several times over the years, but just the more, you're around her, like, she's just a cool chick. Like, I definitely could see, like, hanging out with her and her sister, and just, like, their work ethic is unbelievable. But, like, it's a woman who's seen the world, likes to travel, just an intelligent woman. So Valentina, really, really cool. And everybody knows how much I love me some Joanna. So I'm kind of going mental, like, looking at that fight. I don't really know. Like, I don't want to make a pick in Valentina versus Joanna. I just want to, like, sit there and take it all in because I love that fight. We know Valentina has beaten her twice before in Muay Thai, but, MMA is totally different. But anyway, we also have the lunch with Bryant Ortega that we just came home from today. So, yeah. So there's that.
Well, when you think about Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Karyn Bryant, what's the first word that pops into your head?
Badass.
Like, I could agree with that one. When I think of Valentina, I think martial artists. Martial artists because she's somebody who and like in the words of Bruce Lee, it's not the destination, it's a journey. And she's somebody that knows the journey of martial arts. She goes, she has a camp in the mountains, a camp here, a camp there. She brings her people with her. She's has modest arrangements, and she knows what she likes. She likes to wake up in the morning, she drinks a tea, she eats a certain food, she shadow boxes in the sunlight, she does what she needs to do, but she lives it, she breathes it. I love that about her as well. You said she's a cool chick. It's good to know. I like her style. Yeah,
she is a true, pure martial artist, 100%. Yeah, and she actually talked all about living in Peru and traveling with her sister and their coach, Pavel, and where they went in the world and why they ended up there and where they go for their training. So that lunch with her is definitely interesting. And then also, so next, at some point she's going to come, we're going to go out and do like you know how some people go on like a pub crawl? Valentina and I are going to go on a chocolate cake crawl because apparently she likes to treat herself to chocolate cake. Like after her fight, I said, "What do you do like to celebrate, to reward yourself?" And she's not really into material things. She likes to travel. She likes a couple of nice things, but she's like really basically cake, chocolate cake. And she's like, "I sit down and there's one for me and like one for my sister or whatever, and we don't let anybody else have any." And it was really cute. So I was telling her about like Sweet Lady Jane here in LA and Susie Cakes, and so at some point she's going to come because they actually do live in Vegas now. She'll come out and we'll go on a cakewalk.
Well, make sure and film that for everyone, Karyn.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Okay, so and you're training. I know you're posting all kinds of stuff talking about your baby steps, but you look like you're kind of going maybe not 0 to 60, but 0 to 35. You're putting the gas back on your training, yeah?
I'm putting the gas back on, kind of, I guess you could say breaking news. I didn't even tell you yet. I'm actually going to go in for another little surgery on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Just to clean up on the elbow, though. This is the first time I've had this, but this is something that a lot of fighters have to do pretty regularly. I was talking to, I'll just say another fighter. I'll leave his name out in case they didn't want to know. But, another fighter I was talking to said he's had this done 8 times already, and he's a guy that stays pretty active. So, Yeah, I've been having a plaguing elbow ever since I fought in Australia years ago. My elbow's been killing me, and I've just been fighting through it. And the thing is, every fight camp, it gets worse and worse. And just at the end of every day, I got to go ice my elbow. My elbow's swollen. And I was thinking, while I'm still kind of healing up from the neck, let me go and get it checked out. Turns out I have some bone fragments in there. So I'll go in Thursday. It's a 20-minute procedure. They take out the bone fragments. They stitch you up, and you're done. So, it kind of sucks because I'm at almost full momentum.
Right.
So I have to take a small setback. But being the holidays and being that it gives my neck a couple extra weeks, not a bad thing. But definitely in talks with the UFC already about a March fight and kind of going through different opponents and everything. So that's still the timeline, early March. And come January 1st, I'll be in camp.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen people with it. Either it's that bursa sac or, like you said, the bone spurs in there.
I've had the bursa already. I think you guys did a story on it on UFC Tonight one time.
Right.
And then this will be the bone fragments.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like it was Mark Munoz one time years ago when he showed us a picture of all the stuff they took out.
Oh, yeah.
And, it was crazy. Just like all these little bits of stuff that had just been like floating around and.
I want to ask him if I could keep it. I'm curious because he showed me there's like 2 bone spurts and they were like huge. I wonder if they cut them out and if I can keep them. Maybe I'll put them around my necklace or something like that.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, on social media, on YouTube, it's Karyn Bryant. On Twitter, it's Karyn Bryant. Instagram, KB Heat. And we have MMA Heat across all the platforms.
Cool. And Alan Joban is my social media handle across everything. Also on YouTube, I kind of do a little 5-minute thing called Unguarded now and then. I just kind of break down a little more into detail, whatever's on my mind. So go ahead and check that out as well, guys.
Cool. All right, folks. And also audio versions of this are available at mma.audio. So thanks for watching and or listening, and see you next time.
Take care, guys.